You're listening to the Conscious Briefing Show podcast on Anchor FM.
Alrighty. Welcome back to another edition of the Conscious Briefing podcast. My name is Jason Batt and I will be your host for this evening's podcast. What's it now? The time is now just gone after 6 o'clock, the 26th of January 2020, and it's a lovely scorched day. The weather's nice and hot, always is. Okay, as you can see my heading there, my podcast is on Taxation is Theft. I know if I had Himpiakli Dlamini on the podcast with Christo, he would agree that taxation is theft, and it's quite simple. Why do people say taxation is theft? Is because we do not know where the money is going. With so much potholes going on and not enough schools being built, where is the tax money going that we pay? A couple of questions that I asked Christo Hattingh. I asked him about how many people do actually pay tax. Then I gave like a breakdown on what taxes be paid in the country of ours, and quick summary on what the tax money should be used for. Business rescue, and I asked business rescue, would it help save the SOEs in our country? And we all know SOEs are getting a lot of bailouts from time to time. And then, of course, the IMF. What would happen if they would come to South Africa and try and bail us out? If that would ever happen. But yeah, it's just a question that's been on my mind. I've had a lot of discussions with people on social media. And from time to time, that question, the IMF, it pops up. So, all honesty, what would happen if they have to come? Christo Hattingh, my guest on the show tonight, he works for the Free Market Foundation. Of course, again, he does not represent Free Market Foundation. Tonight on my show, he individual, he represents himself. It's very important that you guys need to know that. He represents himself and not the company. But yes, there is a couple of links that I'm going to share. I'm going to share the links, podcast that he does with Himpiakli, Martin, Doc. Guys, they do awesome work. I mean, I love what the Free Market Foundation do. It's just this is the same as the Renegade Report, Big Daddy Liberty, and Germ Welfare. I mean, the work that they do is awesome. And I try and follow in their shadow and try and give contact to, to create awareness of, well, if for this specific episode on economics and tax, what are we paying tax for? And it's yeah, okay. I'm jabbering here too much now. Let's get into it. I'm going to play the recording now of Christo Hattingh. And then, yeah, please, guys, I don't usually ask this. Subscribe to my channel. Click on that little subscribe button there at the bottom. There's many more. I mean, if you want to, give me suggestions. Give me suggestions on what I can speak about. And if you guys want to be on my show, give me a tinkle and we can maybe arrange something. 'Cause I'm always interested to hear what other people say, especially in the world of philosophy, economics. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to debate about. Anyway, let's get Christo and hear what he's got to say. Thanks, guys. I'll see you now. Okay, Christo, are you there, my man? Christo? Okay, there you. Got you. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
We live. Okay, but not live. This is a recorded version, but anyway.
No worries.
Okay. Christo, before we get into it, give the audience quickly, the listeners out there, what you're about, introduction on yourself.
Always the broad questions, the big questions. We start with the serious stuff.
There's a lot of people out there that don't know who you are. So, of course,
no worries.
Us on the group and that we know exactly. I've been following you. I've been watching your podcast for a lot of times. And I dig the stuff.
Oh,
The
thanks,
work
I
that
really
you,
appreciate it.
Hippie, and
Same with
Jock,
yours. We all try and do good work, all of us in the liberty movement.
we have to. So shoot,
Yeah, so just a quick overview. I studied philosophy at varsity. That's sort of my background. Studied at Rhodes in the Eastern Cape. Then I moved up to Joburg. Then I started working at the Free Market Foundation. Been working there for about 4 years now. I'm the project manager there now. So yeah, my background, just studied philosophy. Been interested in the philosophy of libertarianism for years, as long as I can remember. I'm a big fan of Ayn Rand. Highly recommend all her books and her philosophy and that sort of thing for anyone who's interested. And yeah, I guess that's the long and the short of it.
100, sure. There's nothing big to talk about this week. I think the big hype I've been watching on Facebook, everyone's talking about the expropriation. That seems to be taking full effect again. Everyone's making big eyebrows.
Yeah, I think maybe we hoped that it wouldn't be so bad, but now with the latest news from the ANC, it seems like they want to change things up again. They want the minister to have full power to determine what land can be expropriated.
And
if anyone is interested, on our Free Market Foundation YouTube channel, a few of my colleagues, they did a long video.
I saw that, but I'm going to plug in the link after this podcast. So for the listeners out there.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it's just I haven't even watched it yet, so I also need to watch it so they can, so we can discuss it in the office. But that was also a pretty good one, a longer one,
Yeah, a much longer one. And the ANC wants full dictatorship.
Yeah. I saw Ramon's video as well. So he did a very good summary video of that. Ramon Cabernac on his morning shot. For anyone who wants to watch that as well. Yeah, of course they do. I mean, it's part of the National Democratic Revolution. Socialism is all about full state control. So we shouldn't be shocked. I know our president is shocked very often, but we shouldn't be shocked that the NDR is full socialism and that it means full state control.
Of course, yes. Okay, well, let's get into it. Let's get into the first question then. How many people... Wait, how many people do actually pay income tax for the working population of South Africa? Now, I went onto the internet and I got a little breakdown.
Sure.
Personal taxes, 39%. I don't know. These figures could be exaggerated. They could be low off.
Right.
But just to give the listeners a rough estimation. Personal tax, 39%. VAT, 24.5%. Company tax, 17.9%. Of course, this one I think could be a lot bigger. I mean, sure, right. I don't think all companies and little small enterprises are paying tax than what they should pay. But anyway, that's just my speculation. Fuel levy, 5.9%. Dividends, 3.9%. Custom duties, 4%. Specific excise duties, 3.1%. Other direct and indirect taxes, 1.7%. That's a total of 100%. But how many more people can or should pay tax?
So that's a very, I think, good and important question. Broadly speaking, I think we read articles every week, almost every month, about more and more people leaving the country.
Exactly.
So we know that people are heading overseas. They want to take their businesses and their families overseas because things in South Africa are not going well at all.
Yeah.
And I think, not that I would personally advocate for not paying your taxes, but I think a lot of people simply don't see a return on their taxes. I think for a lot of people, they see that is a good thing. They want to pay their taxes, but they simply don't see the government using it well. We see our taxes going to all sorts of state capture things. We see it going into SAA and Eskom. It's just bailout after bailout, and it's not used for anything. I don't know if you saw that video, or maybe the listeners have, that video of the former president driving on his quad bike in Nkandla, followed by 3 BMW X5s, and that's where our tax money is going.
It's an old video, yeah. Hilarious.
So we really shouldn't be surprised that people aren't paying taxes. They simply don't see a return on that. It's sort of, think of it as a basic investment you would make in a stock on the JSE. If you don't see a return on your investment, why would you continue investing in that stock? You would take your money elsewhere.
Yes.
In terms of how many people are actually paying taxes, how many businesses are paying taxes, I think maybe we should go work for SARS and help them, because they would love to know how many more people could be paying their taxes or not,
But
the tax base keeps on shrinking.
A rough estimation. sure, we're 57 or 58 million. Of course, then you got to take into the youth into consideration. They don't pay tax, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think? What do you think? Could it be 10% of that 57, or is that too much?
Yeah, and I think that's being quite generous. I think 10% is a good guess.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. And I think that's a good number as well, based on the low amount of businesses we see starting up. So people simply don't have the resources to start up businesses to grow their own sort of wealth. So then they wouldn't fall into any particular tax income bracket.
Yeah, of course, yes. Yeah. Of course, the second question I've got you is, give us a breakdown quickly. I mean, I know a lot of us know what it is for, but a quick summary what the tax should be used for in South Africa. What should the
Right, so
be used for?
no, sure. I'm not an anarchist, so I think there should be some form of government. Ideally, it should be as minimal and as limited as possible. So I think, morally speaking, government should be restricted to sort of the courts and public defense. You can make the case in South Africa, based on our history, that there should be some sort of social grant system, but I think it should be a merit means tested system. It shouldn't be on racial grounds, because income class and wealth is so fluid. So every day people move from one income class to another. It's sort of bad, I think. It's sort of Marxist thinking to think of one person always stuck in one particular income class. That's always changing. You and I each make economic decisions every day that either increase or decrease our wealth. Maybe we make bad investments with our money, then we drop into a lower income bracket as such.
Yeah.
So that's just broadly speaking what I think taxes should be used for. Sort of infrastructure, again, the public,
infrastructure,
the defense of the country, the military.
Infrastructure, definitely.
Yeah. Then the police, of course, the police and the army. But then again, you need to see transparency. So it's all well and good saying that that's what the thing should be used for, but it should always be easy for the taxpayer to see where that money is going. Whereas nowadays, the money is going for all sorts of things that it really ought not be.
Years ago, people would go to council meetings and they would sit in meetings, and the mayor and his staff would sit. Okay, not specifically the mayor, but then somebody would be there saying, look, guys, we've spent so much on roadworks. We spent so much on works on a school. This school needed new water pipes. That type of stuff just doesn't happen anymore. But what's scary is the public don't want to go to such meetings, because we all know going to such meetings is just a lot of lies. Just lies.
Exactly.
No one's going to believe what the council's saying. Yeah.
No, sure. And there's no way for us to really verify. I mean, I know we like to complain in South Africa about the problems we have, but we still have quite a robust and strong free press. So they do try and expose a lot of the stuff that does go on. I know that generally they lean more to the left ideologically, so a lot of us
I was thinking the same.
Like engaging with them, but they do try and expose some stuff every now and then, especially places like Daily Maverick. I think they do very good work.
Yeah, no, they're okay. But News 24, I won't listen
going to. Sorry.
Yeah, News 24, I don't believe everything they say. Yeah.
I think it's also on us, each of us individually, to sort of read different news sources and figure out what we consider the truth to be. We shouldn't just say, okay, well, I love, let's say, Daily Maverick, for example, so I'm always going to get my news there. We should always balance these two or many more sources with each other and see what actually matches up to reality. That's our own individual responsibility.
And the latest,
I wanted to highlight the point you made about attending council meetings and things like that, which I think is very important.
Very important.
We maybe it's nice and easy to we all share articles and things on social media, and when we love complaining about the government's behavior, but at the end of the day, the people of South Africa elected the government. So we also need to be active and engaged. We need to go to these meetings and things, and at least on that level, try and hold them accountable. I'm not saying it's going to work. They're probably just going to ignore what we say and go ahead with their plans. But we, in some ways, have the tools to hold them accountable. I don't think we're doing that very well.
No, we're not. No, we're not at all. We've lost it there completely. It's sad. So, but how do you feel about this next question? Taxation is theft. I know if Himpiaki was here now, he would obviously agree with it completely.
Yes.
Hey, taxation theft.
Well, it's. I mean, if you look at it philosophically, taxation is based on force. If you don't pay your taxes, the government's going to come to your door and bash your door down. I dare anyone out there to not pay their taxes, and they're going to come and force you. So there's nothing voluntary about it. So from that perspective, you can make the philosophical argument that it's based on force, and force is immoral. And taxation is theft. So.
And the thing is, government's going to run out of money as well. Do we want that? Do we want that to happen? Do we want government to run out of money? Because that's.
I wonder. I mean, I've heard. When was it? End of last year or sort of middle last year? Russell Lamberti, he did a talk at the FMF, and he made the case where he thinks things need to go really bad before they'll improve. So he would say, yes, they do need to run out of money so that we can, really see things going very badly, go off a cliff, and then people wake up to the reality. I don't know if I'm ready for
support that notion.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I'm ready for that sort of society.
No, we're not. I don't know. But if Ramon was listening to this, he would say, "Yeah, it must happen. It must happen. South Africa must fall,
exactly,
so that we can pick up the pieces." But everyone to their own
maybe that's what's needed.
No, I don't want it to fall. I mean, I don't want to go and leave my house now and go live in the bushes somewhere.
Oh, of course.
And then wait for a miracle to happen.
And the miracle probably won't happen. It'll probably just go worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, exactly. So the next question is what would happen if the politicians get the rights, the nationalization of the banks, to print as much money as they like? Ooh.
Well, the one word that you should always think of when government gets that sort of power is inflation. Because let's again go back to SA and Eskom, even the NHI. There's no more money.
I'm going to put a photo up here. When I do this podcasting post, there's a photo of the Zim dollar, $100 trillion. Yeah.
Yes, with all the zeros.
That's your typical inflation. Crazy.
Well, here we go. That's exactly it. We see it in Zimbabwe and Venezuela. Every country with high inflation. When inflation happens, your money loses worth. So you can only buy. Let's say we can buy a loaf of bread now with. Let's take it as an example, like 20 rand. If inflation happens, hyperinflation, then it's going to cost us like 500 rand for the same loaf of bread.
Exactly. That's the scary part. Yeah.
As usually happens with these policies, when government control increases, it's poorer people who suffer the most.
Yes.
So their money isn't going to go as far as it used to. So stuff like basic, food stuff like milk and bread, and then just taxi services, fuel costs, that's all going to go up because of inflation.
Of course, that's the scary part. And with what we just said now, taxation is theft. Cutting taxes, trying to create a tax revolt, because there's a lot of people that they want to say we must do a tax revolt. But government's just going to print money then. He's just going to get the right to print money, and then inflation. So there's no way of looking you can win it. You can't.
Yeah, you're caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not going to work, yeah. But to the next question, with everything going on in South Africa, the SOEs, the way they battle, can business rescue save certain SOEs?
So I think it depends on the kind of business rescue and the people who are doing it. So I think it could be a good thing, but it just depends if the business rescuers themselves are independent. So if they're not being influenced by government, for example, if government truly lets them do what they want to do, lets them lean down the SOEs as much as possible. For example, with SAA, that means letting go of a lot of pilots, unfortunately, letting go of a lot of the aircraft. But those are some of the decisions that need to be made. So I think business rescue could work if it's truly independent. And I mean, given South Africa's history of state interference and state capture, I find it hard to believe that the business rescue will proceed 100% sort of independently.
Yeah, because SAA just received more money now. I think it was your...
Yeah, I think they're trying to get 2 billion, and I just saw about maybe 20 minutes ago now, before I started chatting with you, because there was an article on Business Report, or on Business Tech, one of the two, about the bailout, and it said Minister Mboweni, he acceded to what the ANC wanted. They wanted more bailouts. And I saw about 20 or half an hour ago, he tweeted and he said this is false. He didn't agree to this. He was at a different summit, at a different meeting. So he said, watch this space. So let's see what happens. We know Minister Mboweni, he's one of the ones who seems to be pushing back against some of the big socialist plans. So let's see if he can manage to
how much longer can
keep them stopping.
How much longer can these SOEs just keep on accepting bailouts? I mean, it's poor mismanagement.
You're completely right, and it's a perfect example of what happens when no one truly owns anything, because it's the government, so it means it's owned by the people, which is a non-entity, but it just shows you no one has to be accountable. If SAA was a private airline, at this point, I'm very sure that they would have been closed down, because no airline competing in the private industry could get this sort of money from creditors and lenders and still survive. It just shows you if something is run by the government, it's not really accountable to anyone.
I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
It is. So,
sorry, to sort of tie back to what you mentioned earlier with what taxes should be for. So like I said, there could be a case to be made that it should be used for some sort of social grant system. Look at all the money being used, the billions used for SAA and Eskom. That money could be used for upliftment for poorer South Africans.
Yeah, of course. And for what we just mentioned earlier about infrastructure and that roadworks and building more schools. I mean, schools, we lack schools. We need schools. Our education system currently, mathematics, what's it, 20% pass rate? Or was it 30% for all the grades?
I wish I was still in school, because my maths was very bad. I need that lower pass rate.
No, I said the same question on the podcast earlier. I mean, mathematics and that, and everybody thought economics has got to do with your mathematics. It's not. It's a philosophical thing. The thing is with education, and I was watching a video that Wesley Bryan shared, and this guy was saying that people don't know. People are not educated on what economics actually means. If we can just somehow educate more South Africans on what economics is, then people would understand better how to run a country and how and where the money should be gone to. But it's just not happening. It's like the nation.
I think that's again a really important point. I think something that we should highlight like often. I mean, it's just, if you think about the government or the country as a big household, you and your household, yourself and your wife, I mean, it's up to you to decide how much money you spend and how much you get in every month. You know what you can spend and can't spend. So it's the same with the government.
I mean, most people today, when they get paid end of the month, by the third or the fourth, they broke. Why?
Done.
Because they've gone to a joel, they've gone to a disco, and they drink themselves, sorry for swearing, but I'm going to say it, fucked up. And then they just don't have money to do the rest of it, to see him through the rest of the month. What type of reform programs? I've been on this for a long time, and I've had debates on Discord and that with Christo Hattingh and Impiaki and Wesley, other guys. And I've said it before, reform programs need to be introduced into township areas and rural areas and teach them basic 101 economics. But that doesn't happen. It's like the government just doesn't want the people to learn and understand what economics is.
Well, the sort of thing you're advocating for, which I think is very good, that implies that you want people to have individual responsibility, and the government doesn't want that to happen.
Individualism.
For as long as the government can keep people dependent on the government, they'll be happy. They'll be in power.
There is countries out there at the moment, individualism works. It can work. It's just that the government, this country doesn't want to give individualism a go. But it's people like me and you, and this podcast that I'm doing, and your podcast that you do with Jock and Impiaki and Martin. More people just need to see it. And somehow, I'm hoping that somebody out there will say, you know what, these guys are right. Let's actually go try and set up a program and go into these townships and say, right, guys, let's teach you economics.
I think that would be quite transformative for South Africa, just changing the whole idea of you should be responsible for yourself and not wait for the government to do things for you, because South Africa's whole history, we've had big government. I mean, during colonialism, during apartheid, now it's just different parties trying to control people's lives. If we can change that sort of thinking, maybe then things will change. It should all be about individual self-ownership and individual happiness.
Yeah, definitely. My next question, the IMF. Do you think? Do you ever think the IMF will come into South Africa and try and save this country? It's a rough question.
I think they might be open to it, but I don't know if the ANC is going to take it, because the ANC is very much still in the way of thinking and like Cold War thinking. So they'll see the IMF as very Western, sort of imperial colonialist power. Maybe the ANC would rather go to China for loans, for example, or Russia, which isn't necessarily a good thing. I mean, whoever comes is going to come with serious limitations and demands on their loans. So the IMF, when they come and loan new money, it's not going to come easy. Like, you're going to have to change a lot of things. So if we reach that point, it's going to really hurt the ANC's pride, because it's going to be a way of showing that they've failed, that they failed in governing a country.
How much more money can they loan from China? I mean, they're just lending it. What is the current debt at the moment? What's it? 3 trillion?
Yeah, what is the debt to GDP ratio? I think by Mpiaki he'll know definitely, but the debt to GDP ratio, or GDP to debt ratio, whichever way around, might hit like 70% in the year 2030, which is insane. So the government owes so much debt, which again, that's the SOEs.
It's like I mentioned with the podcast I had with Jock Jonker. Chinese just keep on lending money, and not much investment is made. But this is the idea of the Chinese. Yes. They know that Africa is a less development country, so good for them. It works for them. The Chinese have already taken over a TV station in one of the African countries. I think it's Zambia, somewhere there. How much more can the Chinese? How much more they're going to lend to South Africa? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they can keep going. I suppose for them, it's almost infinite.
Yeah, it's flipping crazy, man. Anyway,
so yeah, I don't know if the IMF bailout is the solution, because I mean, they could give us the money and then tell the government what to do. And
of course, I think that's what everyone's talking about. Yeah, if the IMF is stepping in, then they're going to say, okay, ANC, you need to change some of your policies in that, and they're not going to go for that. Yeah. I think a lot of us are kind of hoping that could happen, but now listening to what you're saying, that now it's now, oh God, more cuck now. Keep on lending money from China. But what's the disadvantages? I mean, I'm worried, and I think everybody else is worried, that eventually China's just going to say, hey guys, you guys can't pay your debt. What now? Yeah. What's the serious ramifications?
Yeah, then they can start seizing infrastructure and that sort of thing. If, for example, they help us to build power plants, then if we don't pay back the debt, then they can say, well, we're in charge of the power plants now, just as one example. But again, even if it's the IMF loaning us money, they'll have the same sort of restrictions. So they'll say within 5 years, you need to change certain things. And if we don't, they'll come in and seize assets. That's what any loaner, country loaning stuff to another country will do. So it's up to us then to actually fix things.
Exactly. But that's just it. If they keep seizing companies and that, how much employees from South Africa they're going to keep on there, and how much people are they going to bring from China over? And the money is just not staying in South Africa. The economy, the chain of the economy is being broken here. The money's not being spent in South Africa. I've said it in last week's podcast with Petrus that lives in New Zealand, a friend of mine, where he used to live, he's an engineer. The money that he used to make a month used to go to his accounts. Let's say, for argument, he had a Edgar's account and Mr. Price account. So there was a nice flow. And now he's not here anymore. Now he's gone to New Zealand. So New Zealand is benefiting from him now. He's working. He's getting paid monthly. He's got monthly income. He's paying whatever taxes he's paying. And so in New Zealand's economy is growing nice. Ours is not, because we're losing skill. All our skillful people are slowly but surely moving out overseas.
Yeah. If you think of each country as a company, your company wants to attract the best people. You want to attract the most skilled people, the ones who are going to work hard, the ones who are going to show innovation. And South Africa on the world stage, I don't know if you saw that interview with Richard Quest from CNN with Bruce Whitfield. I would recommend to everyone to watch that as well, because he also says South Africa is just dropping off people's radar. They don't consider us really for investment anymore. So we're not showcasing why people should come and invest here, why they should stay here. If we're compared to other countries, then people want to go to countries where, for example, their property will be secure as one big thing. I mean, why would anyone invest in South Africa if their business is going to be seized or their property is going to be seized? It's just a rational decision.
And that's it. We are losing investments, eh? Yeah. Previous under the Mbeki administration, he at least did a good job in securing investments in this country. Mm-hmm. Our last two presidents are not doing that. They're not securing any investments.
No, I don't seem particularly bothered by it, especially President Zuma. I don't think he really paid attention to it. And President Ramaphosa does say the right things, but then he supports policies such as expropriation without compensation and the national minimum wage, and those things are very anti-investment. So it's one thing to say you support investment and you want more of it, but then in your actions you support policies which are going to undermine investment every single day.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. I think that's it, eh? I got nothing else to say. Anything else? Sorry. Anything else you want to add?
No. If there's anything else you want to touch on, I'm free. But I think we've covered mostly all the bases.
Yeah, we did. It's just that I want to just tell the people out there, if you know, don't think that economics is boring. Economics is not boring. Yeah. If you fully understand the philosophy of economics, it's like a whole new world opens. I mean, I love economics. I love watching videos of economics because it's the fundamental part of what makes our country tick, and not just our country, any country for that matter. But we need to emphasize on it and make people understand economics. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, it's just basic. I mean, it's basic trade. You and I have certain skills. You might know stuff that I might not. And if I want to learn stuff or build something, then I'm going to trade those skills with you. And I might know stuff and have stuff that you don't. So we both will win from trading with each other. Trade is supposed to be a win-win. It's supposed to be both of us benefiting from working with each other. And as you say, I mean, that's basic economics. It's simply improving your life and trying to trade with other people so that they can also improve their lives.
Yeah, 100%. Don't go. I just want to quickly give my closing statement, and then I'll stop the podcast, and then we can just say goodbye then further. Okay, thank you, Christo. Thanks for joining in my podcast.
Thank you.
My podcast is available on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Anchor FM. This one will be broadcasted YouTube, and for BitTube. Why BitTube? Because BitTube doesn't really censorship. Not that my videos have been censored yet. I don't know. I'm worried. Maybe it will get there. We haven't said anything that can offend people, haven't we? No, we haven't. But yeah, please. I will leave the links. Thank you, guys. Cheers. I'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.